Hello, Deck It Out DIYers. This is your adorable gnome for our August Deck It Out Gnome of the Month box. Super excited about the sunflower. It's a perfect transitional gnome for fall. And this gnome will go great with our tiered tray of the month box, which if you are a part of that Deck It Out subscription box, you know is also sunflower themed, so they go well together, and sunflowers are so much fun. When you get your box, you will have these little pieces. It will come on a tray that looks like this with some tape, so keep them handy. But what I did was I made sure I knew how to lay it all out and where all the pieces went, so that as I paint, I know where I'm painting and what colors I want to paint it. And I just know how it all fits, because this one is a little bit of a jig. It's a different beard on him, and I always get this part confused. So take note, make sure you look at your picture. It will help you put it all together. And then you'll have your paint colors as well. So we'll go through how I'm going to paint it, and I'll talk you through how you could add your own spin. As always, we're DIYers, we're crafters, we're creators. So bring your own colors into the mix as well. And we're excited to see what you create. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, I separated all of the parts based on the colors that I'm going to paint them. I am going to paint the sunflower. I'm going to paint this yellow. It is on the chunky cutout. And the reason for that is that this sunflower does not line up perfectly. It lines up pretty darn close. But there are a few spots where you can see. So I was just gonna paint on the outer edge, and then the stem and leaves line up pretty darn close, but as you can see, there's a little overflow. So I was just gonna paint those green. Then it will all blend in together. Everything else should fit fairly well, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. You could paint the sides if you wanted. I have done that in the past. So to get started, we give you some sponges. I'm just gonna take this yellow sponge, dip it in your paint, pull some off, and just brush out to the sides to get some nice coverage. But again, this is just so that when those little pieces show through, it's not the brown the brown wood behind it. So I'm not really doing it beautiful. I'm just kind of throwing it on there, slopping on the paint, just so that there's some coverage. And really, you don't even have to paint through the middle. It's just kind of a habit. To paint the sides, just take your sponge, get a little bit of paint on it, and do the same thing. I go kind of one direction with it, and then you can flip and go on the other side to get paint in there. We also give you these smaller brushes to get in there if you prefer to paint that way. So right now I'm just gonna do, I'm going to paint my chunky cutout. I do have, when you have these sponges, you can always cut off the bottom to use them again, which is the beauty behind crafting. We are so resourceful, right? So I'm just gonna throw a little green paint on these, and then we'll get started with our pieces. Okay, so you saw that I painted in all of my spots. It takes a little bit more effort in some spots than others. So now let's just talk through how to paint some of these smaller pieces. Take your tape, and I would recommend not rolling it up like I did. Take your tape, and you can take your small pieces and put them down so that you're able to use your sponge and paint on them without losing it. So dip it in your paint, dab some off. You don't need a lot of paint for these parts. That's why you don't have a lot of paint in your cups. Because look at that. I just used a very light coating. I might end up doing another coat because I do them so thin. they dry instantly, okay? So do you see how putting it on the tape is really helpful for these small pieces? Okay, then you can let this dry. I would do the same for these pieces. Now, when I painted my gnome over here, I did use the yellow and then the green on the same brush because it didn't matter. If you have baby wipes or a wet wipe, you could definitely wipe them off if you wanted. These next pieces are the nose and the hands. So I'm grabbing some tape because they're small. So this is the nose. This is a hand. And then what's tricky is this is the hand and the stem. Okay, so right here, this is where your little detail brush will come in handy. This is the stem. So I'm just gonna paint with the detail brush. The stem, you could dab this part if you wanted. But I'm just trying to get this in here so that I can paint the hand of this. And so his hand is holding on to the stem of the sunflower, which I think is adorable. And so to make his skin colors here, I'm just gonna do some mixing to get it to the spot that I like. Now, you can do it whatever color you want. Maybe you have color at home that you want to use. It's a little yellow for me, but go ahead and just mix your colors, and then I would recommend doing what I just did, using your detail brush to paint these small spots, and then move forward with dabbing the paint on this. You could put your piece on here. For the beard, you can blend the white and the black if you want some gray in it, or you could do some streaks. I will probably do some streaks. So I'm just gonna paint this on here quick. I'll probably paint it white and then kind of brush some, using my sponge again, using the black sponge, brush some gray or brown, black streaks on there to kind of make it look gray and old. Okay, but I'm okay with that color, so I'm just gonna leave that. And like I said, just use your paintbrush here or your sponge with the green, dab some off, and then just dab gently. Now, if you get in these lines that are etched or engraved, if you have like a toothpick or a safety pin or an X-Acto knife, you can just take it and pull it through, and you will get those lines more clean. You could also take like a paint marker and draw in those lines, or take the black marker or the black paint and the black detail brush and draw those lines in to add a little bit more detail. That would be awesome as well. Okay, remember how I said that his beard is that double layer beard? So make sure that your beard is the right side up. Now, if you paint it wrong, it's paint. We can always paint over it, so you can flip them over later. But I did put these on the tape just so I didn't have to hold them. I'm gonna take my sponge. You just saw me cut it off a little bit. I'm gonna take my sponge, get some of this white paint. There's a lot of white paint, and I like to pull off to the side because these pieces are cut on the laser, which means they have burnt edges, so you don't have to paint them. So I try to take my paint and pull it from the middle out so that I don't get paint on those nice clean edges. Okay, and so what I was talking about with the details of the beard is I painted white, and if you want a solid white beard, that's awesome. If you want to add gray, then you could mix your colors. I am dabbing off as much of this black as I can, and then I'm gonna just pull it down, and then I'll come back with my white dab some of it off, make sure it's covered evenly, and kind of pull it in. And again, your project, so blend it as much or as little as you'd like, okay? So I'm happy with that as his beard, and then I'll move on to these, like the second layer of his beard. When you're blending and working with paint like this, I always tell you to keep it wet so that the paint continues to move with itself. If it gets dry, then you'll get more of the very stark color. And I'm just gonna pull this on. And this one is a little bit dark, so I'll try to lighten it a little bit. But yeah, I think this will end up looking really nice together. Tried to go in the same direction as well. You saw me pulling it away from myself. So there is that piece. Next up, I have the hat and his arms. So I'm going to do his arms and his hat to match. I'm going to use the teal. So we gave you this really dark, rich teal, which I think is awesome. I just pulled another piece of tape. And again, you don't need a ton of paint. And you can just dab it on quickly. For his hat, there's so many ways you could paint this. You could get different colors, but if you're gonna use the colors provided, you could do polka dots, which take the bottom of a pencil with a nice eraser and use that as your dot. You could cut a circle on paper and make your own stencil. You could use a straw, practice this a little bit, but you could use a straw and have the inside the teal color and then the dot, the circle, a color. Lots of options with that. One thing I'm going to do that I've done on a few of our gnome projects is I'm gonna add stripes to mine. And I'm going to get a little bit of paint on my brush, my small detail brush, and I'm just gonna kind of make them messy and random. Okay, so for this painting technique, I am just kind of making them messy and random, and I'm starting with the black because I don't know how many colors I'm actually going to put in this. But looking at the colors we have, like they all would look pretty cool on here. So, and you'll see that they're not all the same thickness and they're not all the same, like some are thicker, like widthwise here, and then some are just like little beads, and then some have lots of paint and some don't have a lot of paint. So we'll go with this, clean it off a little bit. I think the yellow and the white will look really fun. I even think this green would look really fun. Again, try it out. If you don't like it, paint over it. Once it's dry, of course. Okay, so for this, I just add the paint in, the stripes in that I like and where I like them, and how much I like. Okay, so there's like no real method to this madness except to just keep adding stripes of color where you want them and how you want them. So like that one's a little bit thicker, and I will probably take a peek at this and modify some spots as I go. So if you're gonna use this technique, you can just continue to watch. I'll put the video on a little bit quicker. So that you can kind of see how I do this. Okay, let's now take a look at our sunflower. For your sunflower, I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to do the center of the sunflower brown. I'm okay using my sponge, but this would be an awesome opportunity to use your detail brush as well to be painting in this circle. But I am okay if the paint goes over the edge a little bit so that I can blend it in with my flower petals, because sometimes the sunflowers have a little bit of a darker hue sometimes. So we gave you the yellow so that you can make yellow sunflowers or golden sunflowers. But there are so many types of sunflowers. There's even white sunflowers, right? So you could use this white to be painting your sunflower as well. I was just at a farm that had white sunflowers. So, and now you'll see that I am going over my brown in the middle a little bit, which I'm okay with because I will go back. It's part of the blending and the coloring that I'm hoping to have. And you'll see that I'm just working it around and around, and I'm not using a ton of paint because I don't want all of those etched lines to be completely filled in. And again, we talked earlier, use an X-Acto knife or a toothpick or a safety pin to get into those smaller spots to pull some of that paint out if you would like. Okay, so I'm gonna take and kind of rework my circle here, knowing that I'm okay with some of the overflow from the paint colors. But I'm pretty happy with my sunflower. I have one chunk of paint right here I'll pull off and maybe go over that spot again, but I'm loving this. I hope you guys are loving this gnome project too. I'm gonna let all my pieces dry, double check for a second coat of paint if I need it, and then we'll come back and assemble. All right, Deck It Out DIYers, here we go. My hat is still a little bit wet, but I wanted to continue putting this project together for you. So what I did was I took all my pieces and I put them on the chunky cutout. I did not glue them yet. So this is the best way to do it is to lay it all out, make sure it all fits, and you know where each piece goes. Okay, so then we'll start with our glue, and we'll glue on each of the pieces. And here's my hint. The petals are cut for the sunflower, so they have to go along his head because it touches his hat. Okay, and now I'm just gonna make sure that I get them to fit. So you see I'm pushing on both sides to make sure that this sunflower is put where it needs to be put. And I'll grab my stem and leaves here, put some glue on, and again, I wanna make sure it all fits. So I'm checking the alignment of these three pieces, the hat, the flower, and the top of the stem, to make sure they go together well. And then his hand and the bottom of the stem, I'll attach that. Check to make sure it's level on the bottom because this is a freestanding gnome. So you want to make sure that this is also level at the bottom of this part right here. Okay, I'll get my hat ready, add some of the glue. Okay, now when I'm doing the hat, I gotta make sure he fits again where he needs to and lines up with all the spots. Okay. We'll grab this little arm. Looks like my glue kind of spit out some, so I'll grab some of that. Oops. Don't touch the glue with your finger, it will stick. Okay, push that piece into place. I'm gonna take off the layers of his beard, and I'm gonna make sure that the beard is gonna go where I need it to go, right here. So I'm gonna do the beard next. And these gnomes are fun because they're kind of like a puzzle. But they're also in so many pieces so that you can just paint the way you want each piece and then put it together, and you don't really have to worry about getting colors mixed up. This one was a little bit more detailed with the small pieces here and there, but hopefully you found that not too challenging and an enjoyable project to create. I'm finishing up with his feet. I do have his little hand here. It's also nice to know and make sure that you have all of the pieces. When I was putting this together, I didn't misplace because the feet were on my table, but if your craft table is like mine, where you have lots of goodies on it, sometimes you don't see all your parts. So it's also good to have pre-lay it out so you have all your pieces. And I have glue on my finger. Not good. Okay. His nose fits in, so I would recommend putting his nose on and then the layered beard. Okay, so making sure his nose fits where it needs to fit, and then the single swoosh where it doesn't have a cut in goes on this side, and it fits right under his nose and right under his hat. And then this is like that double swoosh of a beard. And that will fit on the other side. Again, along his hat and right under his nose. Well, deck it out, DIYers. Gnome of the month, friends. This is our awesome, adorable, cute, super fun gnome for the month of August, which matches perfectly with our tier tray. So if you're not a part of the tier tray club, or you're not a part of the gnome club and you're watching this, you should join because these are so cute. I did not paint the outside of Mr. Gnome. I should do that, I think. But these are freestanding, so he will stand on his own for you. I can't wait to see how you paint your gnome, how you design your hat, and I will see you in our Deck It Out DIYers Facebook group. Also, come and join us on our Facebook page and share with us what you create. See you soon, friends.